The 3-4 odd defense is one of the best defenses in all of Madden 26. This defense comes equipped with some of the best pressure that you can possibly get in this game, symmetrical fronts, and a decent way to play coverage behind the pressure. Now, what I'm going to be breaking down here is simply the coaching adjustments and the personnel substitutions, all that stuff. So basically what we're going to be doing with this defense is we're going to do these coaching adjustments right here. We're going to turn auto flip defensive play call off. Super important when running 3-4 odd, in my opinion. You kind of want to run this defense as a symmetrical defense that you're adjusting out of. You want to give the same look every single time. And for that is why we turn auto flip off. Then we want to go down to defensive motion response. We want to put this on disabled. This is going to make it so that our defenders are not going to move as much with pre-snap motion. Super good adjustment here. We're going to option read key to conservative. We're going to option pitch key aggressive, RPO read key conservative, and RPO pass key conservative. These are kind of the standard ways that you want to be defending RPOs in this game. And then lastly, what I like to do with this defense is put my safety depth on close and my safety width on pinch. Now, once we get to the actual formation, there's actually a specific package that you need to equip with this 3-4 odd. If you do not equip this package, this defense will be significantly worse. Your adjustments will kind of be messed up. So what I would suggest doing is if you're in your packages here, you are going to go to the OLB flip. However, as you probably saw, it's going to sub out some of your players and it's going to change your personnel on the screen. So what I also recommend is once you go to this package, going through and subbing in or subbing out and back in all of the players where you want them to be. As far as like where you specifically want your players to be, the most important positions on this defense are ultimately going to be these outside linebackers. You want to put super fast players here. You want your fastest players, basically your fastest players possible there. And then at the nose tackle position, you just want probably your best block shutter. Those are really the only two, what I would say is like roster requirements for this defense. Outside of that, you want speed everywhere you can get it. Speed is hard to come by in this game, and speed is what is going to really change the blitzes for you. So just make sure you're putting your fastest pass rusher or your fastest guys on the outside, as they are going to be the guys that come free. As far as what play to pick out of the 3-4 odd and what shell to use, there are a couple of different options for you. Ultimately, the biggest thing that you can do in terms of audibles is you don't really want to be audibly around. I'm going to put some very specific audibles in here. These are just situational. If I'm ever in a no huddle situation, I could go to a couple of these plays and have some confidence that we're going to be okay. First and foremost, pinch bug 0. This is a great little, if I just need to, blitz everybody, I can get to this quick. The second one that I like to have in here is the cover 4 drop. I think this is kind of a non-negotiable play to have in here. This play is good because we can basically do everything that we need to do for the defense out of this one play right here. And then the cover 3 sky is the other one that I'm going to change out, and I'm going to put the cover 4 quarters in here. And these are kind of the core set of audibles that I like to use. The main reason why is because the cover 4 quarters, cover 4 drop, they're going to be the same pre-snap look. Tampa 2 is a pretty safe one as well. It also has the blitz equipped with it. And then pinch bug 0 is we just need to get into some pressure, and we're going to come out in the pinch bug 0. Now, as far as the shell that we're going to come out in this formation, the shell that we're going to be coming out in, if you take a look here at this bottom of the screen, there's really two that I would recommend. The first one is cover 4 if you want to use a cover 4 shell. The one weakness with the cover 4 shells, sometimes the outside corners can be in a weird alignment. What I normally am going to ultimately do is going to be in a cover 2 shell within this defense and kind of basing out of that. My base play call actually, because of this as a cover 2 shell here, kind of can do a couple different things. I think the easiest way to do this is to actually come out in a cover 3 sky. The reason why I like to come out in cover 3 sky specifically is because then I could audible into cover 2. You're going to be using, a lot of different plays here. You could come out in cover 4 drop, do everything out of cover 4 drop. We'll talk about it in the breakdowns, but in general, you can kind of come out in whatever you want to because of this shell feature. I wouldn't come out in man coverage unless you really want to run man coverage. I just feel like man coverage, man, things are just a lot different. People move around a lot more, and even with the shell feature. So, the base look that we're going to provide is we're simply going to come out here. We're just going to show blitz our linebackers. That's basically it. Okay. And then from there, we're going to be setting up different types of pressure, which I'll be going over. Now, what's going to happen here is let's say that they were to audible to a trips tight end. So just for sake of illustration, I'm going to move this ball to this hash mark. But this is the audible that everybody likes to do against these compressed defenses, is they like to get into a trips look to start to give us some problems. So when they audible over to a trips tight end type of look here, you're going to see that the only people that really move are the safeties. They move a little bit over here. If you want to midpoint them a little bit more, you can, but I don't think that's a terrible alignment. The corners stay in a pretty good spot. And then when they motion this running back out to create kind of like a 5 wide look, we're still in a fairly decent spot. You might need to like manually, move this guy out a little bit, but in general, we're in a pretty appropriate spot, when we're talking about this 5 wide situation. Now, what I want to do, just to kind of be clear with something, is audible into a generic 5 wide. Again, the big key here is you're always going to show blitz your linebackers. That's the big thing that's going to help this out. And then you see that when they do the audible, normally you're going to be in a pretty good position to handle any kind of standard 5 wide or any kind of spread out set that could mess this alignment up. You see our linebackers are able to stay put. If you've been enjoying this defensive breakdown and you want to learn more about how to take your Madden or college football game to the next level, I want to encourage you to join our school community. It's only $10, get you access to all of our offensive and defensive ebooks for both Madden and for college football. So if you're looking to take your game to the next level, check out our school community at the link in the description below. In my opinion, the best way to run 3-4 odd is to user the same side every single time. It's going to give you a degree of symmetry, but it's also going to give you a degree of answers in terms of different types of pass protection that your opponent can ultimately do. So what I like to do is simply just use a base adjustment. You could do this out of almost any play in the formation. But basically what we're going to do here, I'm going to show this out of cover 4 drop just because I think it's the easiest coverage in the game to be able to adjust out of. And it's pretty safe coverage as well. So what we're going to do for our base setup is we're going to show blitz our linebackers. We're going to user this right of screen outside line or right of screen, middle or inside linebacker. And then what we're going to do is we're going to send both of these guys off of this left-hand side. So you see that it looks like this. I like to slant my line to the opposite side, but in general, this is kind of what the defense is going to look like. And then you can QB contain. From there, you can obviously, adjust your coverage. If you want to drop this backside D in, you can, which we'll talk about that in just a moment. But basically what you're going to see is you're going to get really clean 5-on-5 pressure off the left side. Now, you could also do that same exact thing out of Tampa 2. Now, I like Tampa 2 a little bit better because what you'll see is the blitz angles are different, and all you have to do is just blitz the spin linebacker, and you're basically set up, ready to go. And then you can obviously, adjust your coverage, however you see fit. I think one of the best things to do is drop this defensive end here into coverage. So you see we're only sitting 4 now. If you want to contain, you can. You don't even have to contain with this. You're going to see it's going to get really clean, really fast pressure at the quarterback. So that is kind of the main blitzing style from this that we can do from all these plays. We can do the same thing from pinch bug 0. As you can see here, if I audible to pinch bug 0, it's already set up for me. I'm just going to drop this man into coverage here, and we're just going to send 5 out of a cover 0 look. And you're going to see this is just really clean pressure, right? You can send 5, you can send 4. Either way, you're going to get good pressure with this, and it's very difficult for them to pick this up because they have to essentially, like to pick up this blitz right here, they have to essentially slide protect. If they untarget your user, I just want to show this because once they see that you're usering over here, they're going to untarget your user. Like that's just what's going to happen. Okay. That's kind of the back and forth of these games these days. And so they're going to untarget your user. However, played pretty good, right? Picked it up. And we'll talk about how to adjust to that in just a minute. But if they're untargeting your user, there are answers. But I will say that honestly, on a lot of occasions, even if they untarget my user, normally I'm able to get this this thing to come home here. Let's see if we're able to get it here. Show untarget my user. A little harder than I thought. But what you see how they're kind of targeting there. And typically, this linebacker on the left side should still come in. And there you see, he does. Okay. So I'm not crazy. So normally he will still come in, and especially if you contain. I will say that the blitz comes in a little faster if it's in Tampa 2, but sometimes Tampa 2 can be a little bit more inconsistent of getting this in against an untargeted user. But typically they won't untarget your user for too long. We're going to talk about a little bit of what's going to happen. But generally here's Tampa 2. I'm untargeting the user. And you see here, pressure still comes in. Very, very clean. Very nice pressure. And so the bottom line point here is it's going to be hard for them to untarget your user. So here's what they're going to do. So what they're going to do, because they can't untarget your user to really pick up the blitz, they're going to start to slide protect. So if I give that same look, we'll just do it out of Tampa 2 here. If I show blitz the linebackers, blitz this guy down, QB contain, then what I'm going to do from a protection perspective here is if I'm in a full, I'm going to half slide here to the left side. So as you see, it still is not going to pick this up, right? Because of the 3-4 out alignment and where this guy's at, they're going to still struggle a little bit to pick this up. Normally, we'll try to show this again here. It was kind of maybe a bad rep because I did 2 different side protections. But let me try this one more time. And again, practice been a little finicky with blitzes, but generally speaking here, here's a half slide to the left side. You see, right? We're in a decent spot. I just got to make sure that I'm giving this guard kind of all he can handle. See, I get him out there, and you see how that comes in. So one of the big important pieces of this defense is you really need to hold this guard. Really understanding like how the blocking works in Madden is really important. And one of the best ways to do that is go into practice mode, set up your defense. So we're setting up like we're going to blitz these guys off the left side, and we're setting up our defense. I understand, we're not talking too much about coverage right now. We're just really kind of hammering home the blitzes here, like this. Pretty good coverage for this formation or, something like that. We'll talk a little bit more about coverage in a minute. But basically, the big thing that I wanted to drive home here is when you're testing your protections, you want to hold L1 on the offense, and it will actually show you who they're blocking. So now the main thing they can do is they can full slide to the left side. So you see here, if I full slide to the left, you see that it's going to leave both guys on the right side free, essentially. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to show you. This will do a decent job of picking this up. Sometimes this D end on the right side can come free sometimes, okay? Not 100%. Sometimes he can just go crazy and come free. It kind of depends a little bit on just some factors that you really aren't 100% in control of. So just keep that in mind. Like, this is a really good blitz, and there's really only one foolproof method to picking it up, and that's the full slide, which we'll talk about what to do when they do that. So the main blitz that we're going to use is that one until they start to consistently pick that up, and then we'll talk about the next one. All right, so for the second blitz out of 3-4 odd, the main thing we're going to be doing here is we're going to be adding some pressure from the opposite side of the formation, and this one's going to be kind of cool. A couple different things you can do with it to make it as good as you could possibly make it. And I'm going to be showing this one out of this cover 4. So if we take a look at this real quickly here, what we're going to basically do is we're going to show blitz our linebackers. We're going to blitz the linebacker on the right side just like this. And then I want to take you through kind of what we're going to do. So there's really like 2-ish methods to this. The first one is the passive method. The second one is a little bit more aggressive. So what we're going to do here is we're going to plan to use this type of blitz when they are picking up our base blitz. So when they're picking up our base blitz, normally that means that they're slide protecting. They're full sliding to the left side. And as you can see with the pass protection, it's going to let that linebacker come in free. The other thing here is I like to contain off of this one just because I think it's going to take a little bit wider of a path. The big key with the contain here is if they run like a tight end streak, like something like this, this is the combo you have to kind of worry about this year because it can chip a lot. As you see how it kind of chips the guy like that. But the pressure still does come in, and we're only sending 4 people. And again, this is specific to a full slide to the left side. If they half slide, it'll be kind of the same thing. So like if they're doing really any kind of slide protection, they're going to be in a pretty we're going to be in a pretty good position to get this pressure in. What you can do if you want to, a little extra step, is move this guy out side of the tight end just by a step like that. You have to have the package on to do this. If you don't have the package on, it's not going to work. But typically what you'll get here is if you were to, we'll see if we can actually get this to come in. Protection's kind of looking a little weird here. But normally that tackle made the block of his career. But normally that pressure will come in on a slide protection. It will definitely come in if they full slide. So, and one big thing if you're doing this out of cover 4 that I found is if you slant your D-line to the left before you blitz this guy, you're going to get a little bit better of a blitz animation. And so you'll see here, pretty clean pressure, even though he had to kind of fight through the chipping. Still pretty decent, right? It's only a Sin 4, and it's specific to slide protection. If they're slide protecting, this is really, really good. Now, if they're not slide protecting, let's say you guess wrong, it can still come in, but it's less likely. So if they're not slide protecting, what you'll see here is now a lot more is going to depend on our users. You see the guard is targeting me, and what I basically need to do is kind of hold this guard just like this. And if I hold the guard with my user, this blitz is going to come in. Ultimately, what this is going to lead your opponent to do if you start running this a lot, and I would not run this a lot. I would primarily use this as a backup blitz or a change-up blitz, not as my main pressure strategy, right? However, let's say that they start to block this blitz, and the reason they'll start to block this blitz is really primarily for what I was talking about in the beginning, which is they're going to untarget your user, okay? So if they untarget your user, then it's going to change how the offensive line logic is going to work. And what you're going to see here is you see they should pick this up, right? The game basically tells you they're picking this up, and you see, we're not able to get the pressure in. So what I like to do, and this is very specific to this situation, this is kind of like Blitz 2.0, right? It's a little variation of the second Blitz variation, and it's something that you can do really more of a user tactic than anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to show blitz our linebackers, slant our line to the left, and then we're going to blitz this guy, and we're going to actually blitz our user now. So the reason for the blitzed user is because we're actually going to D-pad switch off of him, and if they untarget us, it will allow him to come in free. So basically, what you'll see here is I'm going to, kind of set my coverage adjustments up. But essentially, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to D-pad switch to this hook curl over there on the left side. So what I like to do here as far as how do I actually do it is I'm going to essentially let the game blitz my user down. So I'm not even holding down on my user. And then I'm just going to hit left on the D-pad once the ball is snapped. This is really difficult to do with 2 controllers here, but we will try it. So I'm going to snap the ball. I'm going to D-pad switch. And then as you see, it will basically let my user come in completely free if they untarget my user. So it's a great way to essentially mix things up a little bit and be able to get this pressure. Now you can also do this out of Tampa 2 or any of the other ones. It just requires a little bit of another adjustment. So you show blitz your linebackers, slant your line to that left side, and then you can drop this guy into coverage, blitz the 2 linebackers on your side like this, and then you're basically still in the same spot. If they untarget your user, if they don't untarget your user, your pressure will come in just like normal, okay? But if they do untarget your user, right, you're able to do that, and you see he's able to generally come in clean. This will be a little better in the game just because I'm not having to use our 2 controllers. One thing I did want to show with this is if they, let's say that we do this and they don't untarget our user, then we're still kind of in the same boat here. So maybe mid-read this, maybe just let's see if we can just vertical will be fine. But anyway, so what you'll see here is now I'm not going to untarget the user, and the pressure comes in just like normal. So that is kind of how you can use this blitz as a secondary or change-up variation that can, give them a little bit of trouble. Now, real quick, just kind of for the sake of our time here, we want to show you one other little piece of this blitz, and that is using cover 3 sky or, really any of these plays like cover 3 match, cover 3 sky. You could use cover 4 quarters for this as well. I'll show cover 3 sky, and then I'll talk about the cover 4 quarters one. But basically, all you have to do with cover three sky is you don't have to slant your line. So you save yourself an adjustment, and it gives you a gap blitz angle. As you see here, we get this a gap blitz angle, which is much better. And so if they untarget you, it's going to be much cleaner of a blitz that's going to come in free. So you can. That's why the shell feature is so cool, because you can come out of this play. It looks just like the other ones. They untarget your user, and you see the blitz comes in completely free. If I wanted to do this out of cover four quarters, right, I could do that. And you see here pretty much kind of similar. If I have my D line here, we're going to be fairly in a similar boat. He's already blitzed, so these are just ways that you can kind of save yourself an adjustment. And then if they don't untarget my user, then the pressure will just come off the edge. Okay. So this blitz, like I said, all around, really, really good, but primarily, and the main purpose of it is to be a change-up blitz off of your main blitz, which is going to force them into some wonky pass protections that we're going to be able to take advantage of. Wanted to show you kind of a mix-up blitz concept that you can use out of the 3-4 odd. This specific kind of mix-up defense is really just designed to make sure that we're not ever susceptible to getting the slide protection that can happen. You could really do this out of any play. I think ultimately, Tampa 2 just continues to be, my favorite. But all you're going to be doing here is you're just going to be show blitzing your linebackers, and you're going to be slanting your defensive line inside, and you're going to be blitzing this linebacker on the outside. So you see what we're basically doing here is we're setting 5, and this is going to make it so that really regardless of whatever side that they slide protect to, if they're sliding to either side, and it doesn't even have to be a full slide, if it's a half slide either side, you should get pressure off one of the edges consistently here. Of course, I say that, and we we don't for whatever reason. But typically, this pressure will come in on any kind of slide, whether it's sliding right or left. Typically, what's going to happen is they're going to slide to the left side. Just telling you, because that's kind of how we've set this up. So if they're sliding to the left side here, what you'll see is, this outside linebacker should come in free. Let me make sure my user is actually doing his job. I think that might be part of the problem. So if we slide to the left, you see here, show blitz the linebackers, just blitz this guy off the outside. You can also slant outside like this, but basically you see here that this guard, stand a little bit more over to the center here, get the guard to take that step inside like that, and then you see how that pressure comes in. So, and then also, of course, like if you're ever in a situation, because the only real way to pick up the blitz on the left side is to untarget your user. This is without blocking running back, of course. Obviously, if you block the running back, yeah, you can block the blitz on the left side. We'll talk a little bit about how to handle blocked running back in a minute. But basically, what you're going to see here is if they full slide either side, it doesn't matter if they full slide left or they full slide to the right side, you're going to scream at them if that happens, right? You're going to get pressure pretty much guaranteed if they full slide either side, which is the main purpose of this. This is not a defense that you want to run a lot of. This specific blitz is, again, 100% a mix-up blitz. One thing I will say also that I like to do with this, though, is if you contain this, it's really good contain defense. So you're going to keep the quarterback in the pocket, and you'll see here that this guy comes in. Now, if you wanted to do something kind of cute, what you can do is you can drop the defensive tackle into coverage, and I'll talk about that real quick. So basically, the reason why we would do this is just to get some extra coverage on the field. We could drop the defensive tackle, whatever you want, right? A hook curl to the right makes the most sense to me, or a hook curl to the left side like this, and then we can drop this guy in a flat and kind of roll the coverage if we wanted to create a little bit more coverage integrity. This would be something you could do. Now, the reason why you can do this is, again, because the purpose of the blitz is for full slide protection. If they do not do a full slide protection, then this blitz probably is not going to come in. I'll show you this is just a standard protection, and you see that it doesn't really come in against that, right? It's a send four. It doesn't really come in if they do a standard slide protect. However, what you can do is in the situation that I'm talking about where they're full sliding, right? Let's say they're full sliding to either side, right? To pick up your user or to whatever, to pick up either edge, then this all of a sudden makes a lot more sense. And the reason being is because of, how this is going to actually work. So again, I'm going to drop this D tackle into a hook. I'm going to take this linebacker here and drop him into a flat. So you see we're only sending 4 people. If you look at this, you're going to see this guard is going to go inside like this, and you're going to get that pressure. This is specific to full slide. I want to make that very, very clear. This is a specific type of blitzing concept where we're basically just using both the outside linebackers. It's almost kind of like a double mug style, where if they full slide either way, they're going to get screamed at. So again, let me show you real quick. If they full slide to the right side, and I do the same exact defense, I don't have to blitz this middle linebacker. I can use them in coverage. So this is, again, a very, and I want to stress, like a very, very, very spare use case. I don't use this a lot. However, in certain situations, this could be a make or break defense for you when they start to full slide, right? Because when they start to full slide, then everything is open and you can just send this. And the other beauty of this type of blitz is it's going to do an incredible job of containing the quarterback. In this game, it is very difficult to send 6 consistently, but having a send 6 type pressure look is always something that I think is important to have in any defense because it's going to help with the blocked running back. Eventually, when somebody plays 3 for odd, they are going to realize that they're going to have to consistently block a running back to consistently pick up pressure. And so what we're going to do here is just kind of go over my base concept for sending 6. Now, when I send 6, generally speaking, I like to send 6 out of pinch bug 0. The reason why is the blitz angles are the best out of pinch bug 0, in my opinion. However, I will also show a zone variation of this, okay? When you do this, I recommend coming out in pinch bug 0 as it's going to give you that same shell and pre-snap look that you've been giving people with your other plays. So if we ever want to send 6, this is how I would do it, right? And all you're going to basically do is just show blitz your linebackers just like this. Now, what's really, 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 really important is to identify, first and foremost, like how they can ultimately block your blitz, right? If they send 5 out and they're just going to get screamed at. But if they're blocking a running back here, you're going to see that this running back is designed to pick up this linebacker on the left-hand side. So what I like to do is just take a look at the pass protection, and you see that if I stay outside over the top of the guard, that it's going to the guard is going to target me, and it's going to trigger this pressure to come in off the tight end side. So you see here, pressure comes in off the tight end side as long as I run down with my user and kind of trigger that. Now, if they, again, they can kind of do some different things. So like one thing they could do is they could untarget your user, okay? So if they untarget my user, now we're kind of getting into that cat and mouse game again, which I said, generally speaking, like I think the best way to do that is to just send 5. However, a way that you can kind of deal with that is if they're going to untarget my user all the time, then I can blitz my user like this, and then I can basically D-pad switch. What I would probably do is play really, really aggressive like this and actually switch stick to this middle third or flat. This would be like a really aggressive defense, but essentially, right, they untarget me. If I blitz my user, I'm going to come in completely free, as you see right there. So that's option A. Option B, when they do this, they're going to try to half slide you. So they're going to try to, let's say, like half slide to the right, block this guy and ID here or something like this, right? Like this would be something they would do. Well, when you pull up this pass protection menu, you're going to be in a really good spot with half slide. As you see, if I hover over the guard, this outside guy is going to come in. There he got crazy bumped, which is why you would slide protect that way. And that's why I don't like to send 6 a lot, because when you the biggest reason not to send 6 is because of the chipping in this game. The chipping in this game is kind of crazy. But if they are setting it up, what I would do if I was them is I would try to get the running back to block the left side and then the tight end to chip the right side. But what you see here is you see him come in free that time. Okay. So in general, I do not send 6 a ton. But when I do, it's kind of very calculated. Another big thing here is to contain, specifically on the tight end side. If you contain on the tight end side, it's very helpful. And if they do block a tight end, ultimately, you're gonna see here that we're in a really, really good spot. So like, if they let me actually reset that to empty or base. If they block a tight end, you're going to be in a really good spot to get pressure. As you see, it's going to be very clean. So this comes in against block tight end or block running back. And I wanted to also show you a zone coverage variation of this that I think could be helpful as well, because with auto motion plays and things like that, sometimes these players will move all over the field. It's not super ideal. So we'll jump into Tampa 2 here. Show blitz linebackers. Here's the big key. You want to slant your defensive line inside. Very important, okay? You're then going to blitz all your linebackers. Actually, we'll just keep them slanting to the right. We'll do it like this. You're just going to blitz all your linebackers like this. So you see fairly straightforward setup, right? But in terms of how this is going to actually play out is if they block the running back, you see he targets that middle linebacker here. And so, we're basically in the same kind of spot. What I would do is at least contain off the tight end side like that, and then you could re-blitz that other guy. But if you take a look here at the guard, you kind of see, make sure that guard's targeting you. That's really important. And you see there that even if the edge pressure doesn't come in, that DN will kind of gap pressure. But this is basically how to send 6 out of this defense. I mean, it's very, very straightforward ultimately. But in general, I do think it's super, super effective, because if they block a tight end, what I love about it is if they block a tight end, a lot of times you're still going to come in. So that's a huge, huge feature to me, is to be able to come in against block tight end, blocked running back in this game. Super hard to do. It's one of the only defenses in the game that will allow you to do that consistently. And you just got to make sure, it's going to take a little bit of getting used to, but you just got to make sure, right, that this guard targets you, which for whatever reason here, he is not targeting me, which is kind of crazy. I don't know why. There we go. It's super weird. I don't know why the guard's not targeting me here. Anyway, let's see. Yeah, I don't know why the guard did not target me at all. Interesting. Let's try one more time. For some weird reason, the guard did not target me. Someone blocked tight end. Might be because I'm base pro. Don't know. But I would, something like that. Oh, crazy. Look at this. Huh. Super odd that the guard is not targeting me right here. But generally, and then that obviously opens up like what I was talking about, the send 7 variation. So if I send 7 like this, right, we'll get pressure. So anywho, those are just the different methods, of course, to send heavy pressure out of this defense. In general, once they start to block running back consistently, you kind of got them, and then you can start doing coverage variations and things like that. So for this part, what I wanted to just do is break down kind of our passive approach to pressure. These are just ways to essentially get better sheds within this game, and better shed strategies when you want to play coverage based within your defense. So there's a send 4, there's a send 4, send 3, send 2 that I wanted to go down or just simply go over here. So the first one is the send 4 that I like the most. So the send 4 that I like the most, one I talked a little bit about already, it's essentially just sending 4 off my user side, okay? The reason I like this is because the most common adjustment they're going to make in terms of their pass protection is they're going to do maybe a full slide. And so the reason that I like this is if they do a full slide, this comes in free, okay? Now, the other thing is, if they don't do any slide protection whatsoever, if they're in like a base protection or an empty protection, then you see that the guard targets me. So if the guard targets me and I come down like this, a lot of times this can come in free as well. So that's why I like to send 4 this way, because this send 4 is pretty good. It's fairly symmetrical. We can set some good coverages up out of it, and we can still get, really, really nice pressure. I mean, even I would go as far as to say, if we were to send, 3 like this, especially if they full slide, this will come in free. So you see here, right? That was just regular protection, and we're still able to get in free, only sending 3. So this is how I like to send 3 in this game, generally speaking. Okay. Now, obviously, there might come a point where you're like, okay, I need that linebacker in coverage for whatever my adjustment is. That's where I'll go to the cover 4. So if I ever go, you don't have to come out and cover 4 specifically, but this is just a send 3. So what you'll see here is you're still going to show blitz your linebackers. I don't know what's going on with my linebackers here. There we go. And in terms of how I like to send three out of this, kind of really interesting. I just like to slant inside, and the reason I like to slant inside is what you'll see is the way they kind of rush is they're gonna get upfield a little bit better and into their pass rush a little bit better. And you see there that sometimes that D tackle can just kind of go crazy when you slant inside. So that's why I like to do that. Is we're primarily just playing through our defensive tackle at that point, but this is something that I do like to do. If you want to just run this as is, a lot of times that D tackle can get a one-on-one. And then I'll give you one other variation of a send three that I like. So another variation of a send three that I like is to run the cover four, but to blitz the D end opposite of the quarterback's throwing hand. So essentially, Mayfield, right? We're going to blitz this right of screen guy or this left of screen guy because Baker Mayfield could roll to the right side. So what you see is you get that one-on-one there, and then you're getting sheds at that point. So that is the send three or the send four, the send three. And then let's talk about sending two. So when I like to send two, kind of situational to, basically how they're blocking. And really the whole purpose of the send two that I would say is two purposes. Number one, you're trying to get a one-on-one. And number two, if they full slide, if they full slide wrong, then you're in a good spot. So again, most commonly, you're going to get a full slide to the side opposite of your user. So in this case, it would be to the left, right? And so if I'm in this cover three, I'm just going to show blitz, and then I'm going to basically drop these guys into coverage. I'm going to take the D tackle, spy him, or bluff blitz him. I'm going to take this left side guy, put him in a hook or whatever, and then I'm free to kind of adjust my coverage, right? In this case, we might, just man him up to the running back or whatever, right? But effectively, if they full slide, a lot of times this guy can come in free off this right side right there. Didn't quite come in completely free, got kind of chipped, but this is a great way to send two. If he does not come in free, so let's say they're doing just a basic protection, then, you're still going to be in a good spot here. Let me put the curl flat. Let me man this guy up. So I'm just sending two. This is just base protection. But what happens is, that's why I always want to have a spy when I send two. So essentially, you're going to get a one-on-one over there on the left side. And then if they try to roll away from this, then you can send your spy. So this is my favorite way to send two. Another way you could send two is, again, situationally, if they're full sliding to the right for whatever reason, which they normally won't do that. But if they do, then this one right here is pretty good as well. So I'm just zoning out the guys on the right. And then we basically just do something like this. And we're sending two, right? So essentially, if they full slide away, a lot of times this guy comes in free. If he doesn't, he gets a one-on-one, kind of standard, just like exactly the other way. The main reason to send two off of that side is, let's say Baker Mayfield was left-handed. If Baker Mayfield was left-handed, it would make a lot more sense. It would make a lot more sense to do that, because when you send two in this game, you kind of want to send two off of the side of the quarterback's throwing hand. That's kind of the general the general rule of thumb, is to send two off the quarterback's throwing hand. So if he was left-handed, this could make a lot of sense, because he couldn't roll this way because he's rolling into the pressure. He would have to roll away from it. So those are kind of the different coverage variations of this defense that I like to do. Obviously, you could do whatever you want from a coverage perspective. So, if I wanted to run, man-to-man, I could do, basically put this guy in a flat, put this guy in a man up on the running back, put this guy in a hook, put this guy in a spy, put my user in a hard flat, and we could basically just play, kind of cover zero, basically. All you really have to do here. And, you're going to get send two pressure. And typically, right, this send two can kind of go crazy this year. So anyway, those are the different coverage variations that I like out of 3-4. So now I want to go over my base coverage shells for bunch in this defense. This is going to include a send 2, a send 3, a send 4, and a send 5 coverage shell. We're going to kind of start with send 5 and work our way backwards. We're going to do this out of Tampa 2. So basically, if we want to send 5 against bunch, generally speaking, it's going to look like this. We're going to show blitz the linebackers, blitz this linebacker here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to play a hard flat on this guy. We're going to man this guy up. The reason that we do this is to defend this play spacing switch, this will do a decent job against this. And if they do like a, kind of standard high-low read or something like that, we're going to be in a pretty good spot here. And what I like to do on the back side of this is essentially man up the tight end user, or do something like this right here and kind of play like cover 3 roll coverage like that. And essentially, if I see, the tight end go on this post here, then what I'll typically do is switch to this backside hard flat or something like that, or I'll just kind of user kind of midpoint here and, just kind of make them have to check the ball down. I think that's the best thing you can do. If you want a little bit more conservative version of the same exact thing I just did, it would be basically this right here. We would run a, cover 3 like so, and it would look basically like this. I might hard flat here, I might cloud flat here, I might soft squat, right? All 3 of those are options, but effectively here, what this will do is, you'll basically be able to do a good job against like a return route or something like that. So if they do, something like this will be decent against return routes, right? Kind of switch to flat and play defense like that. So those are 2 coverages that I like against bunch. And then a third one off of a send 5 is if we need to send 5 the opposite way. So if we need to send 5 the opposite way, then what we would basically do here is we would send 5 like this, for example, and we would, potentially blitz our user. And then effectively what we would do from a coverage perspective is we would just basically invert it. So it would look like this. And then we would be switching onto this yellow zone on the left-hand side. So, that's kind of the standard, just basically flipping what we just did. And then if we wanted to send 4, best way to send 4, in my opinion, is literally just do this right here. And this will be a decent send 4 against this. One thing you can do with your safeties against bunch, especially compressed sets like this, move this guy, cheat him a little bit to this side for the seam streak. That'll help a little bit. And then if we want to send 4 another variation of send 4, we could do this. And then the beauty of this is we now have the ability to basically have this guy as kind of our user in the middle of the field. So we could send 4 like that as well. Those are some of my favorite coverage shells against bunch off of a send 4 and a send 3, or a send 4 and a send 5. Another shell that I'll use if I want to send 5 is I'll use just a straight cover 2 shell where it would look something like this right here. Right, we're just going to send 5, play cover 2 out of it. I do think that's definitely an option in this game. And then a cover 0 shell that I like. So if I want to run cover 0, what I would do, especially if I want to send 5 out of this, my linebackers are being weird again. Let me, because I'm trying to do all this at the snap here. Let me just come out in it. So what I would do, you kind of have to come out in this if you want to send 5. So if you want to send 5, or not send 5. If you want to play man, you want to come out in it so it looks like zone. So it looks just like the cover 2. So what I do when I play man is real straightforward. I'm going to basically man up this guy, flat this guy like that. And then what I would do over here is I would flat this guy, and then I'm going to user this linebacker. And essentially what's going to happen is I'm going to plan to switch stick to one of the flat defenders. So if it looks like this, for example, right here, what I would do is I would essentially just switch stick like I carry, then I'd switch to the flat, and then I'd kind of use him as a hook. So that's one way that you can send 5. If you want to play man coverage, play a little bit more aggressive, that's something that you could do. As far as send 4 and send 2 shells, obviously we kind of get into a lot of things with that, but basically cover 4 drop just straight up, literally straight up, just like this. I will do this against bunch just to kind of like keep the lid on. Say, I'm going to keep the lid on the defense. Another thing I can do is I can double flat this left side, so have it look like this, for example. Play like a kind of like this. This would be a send 3 that I would do. And then basically if I ever wanted to send 2 out of this, I would do it, like I said, out of that cover 3 play. So I'll show that real quick. So cover 3 sky, and I would just show blitz. And I'm going to send these 2 guys off the right side. So then that means I'm going to spy the DT. And then on the left-hand side here, I'm going to hook curl this defensive end. And then what I will typically do because of kind of the nature of this, is I will normally go ahead and hard flat because of spacing switch. You have to kind of respect that. And then I'll actually crossband the solo with the linebacker like that. And then on the back end here, we'll just play kind of basic cover two like this. This would be something that I would run against bunch. It's going to do a good job against playmaker and different things like that. And then obviously you have a chance at getting a guy to shed off of the edge. As far as coverage shells for trip side in, it's relatively simple. A couple things we can do against trips. First and foremost, we're going to come out in pinch bug O. If they come out in trips, this is kind of my preferred way to play trips right here, is to play man-to-man on trips. So what I like to do as far as a basic sequence of adjustments here is we're going to take this linebacker on the left side. We're going to man him up onto the we're gonna put him on a hard flat. We're gonna take this outside linebacker, man him up onto the trips receiver like this, and then typically we're gonna send pressure, kind of off this four man right here. What I like to do is hard flat my user. You can kind of also, if you want to, you could do kind of like a setup like that where you have a hard flat for the running back flat, and that's going to do a good job of kind of playing inside outside on this. And then if you wanted to switch stick, you certainly could do that. But this is kind of a basic, primary coverage shell that I like to run against trips tight end because trips is going to struggle against man-to-man for the most part. And, this is going to do a decent job against a lot of things they want to do out of trips. That's kind of like the first one that I like. As far as a second coverage shell, what I would do is I would actually align it in a man coverage alignment. So what I would actually do, this is if they're coming out in trips, or you could also audible to pinch bug zero. So like if they audible to trips, let me just show you that. So like what a lot of people like to do is they'll come out in short side bunch. Let me put this back on cover two shell. So they'll put they'll come out in short side bunch, right? And then the audible to trips. If you get this right here, I think one of the easiest things to do against trips is to basically audible immediately to pinch bug zero, show blitz the linebackers like this. And now you kind of get this alignment. This alignment is good because it allows you to blitz off of the trip side, which I think is harder for them to block. It's a lot more consistent on a blitz. So what I like to do as far as my coverage is literally just hard flat this guy right here. And that's about it. Like this very simple, just straight man-to-man against trips is normally pretty decent. You could also purple or curl flat this guy, or you could man this guy up on the running back and put your user on his own. The reason I don't like to man up the running back is because, and if I do, it's going to be with my user, is because I want them to block the running back, right? And then we could also like drop this guy into a hook like this, and essentially this is going to get really good pressure against them, okay? So that's one way that I will blitz trips is I'll do that audible right there to kind of counter the trips a little bit. It's to just go to a cover zero and see if they can beat it. Now, if you're playing a good trips player, they'll be able to beat cover zero. They'll be able to beat man coverage consistently. So if they are able to actually have good combos, good plays that beat cover zero, then what I like to do is start to use my cover two stuff. So what I'll do is show blitz the linebackers, as you can see right here. And like I said, generally speaking, I want to blitz off the trip side. That's kind of like my 2 cents is blitzing off the trip side is a little better than not. This is one thing that I will do occasionally is if I want to send four against trips, specifically trips like left like this, what I will do is I will user this linebacker a little bit and send four like that. The reason why is just because it's a really clean send four. It's hard to block that send four without sliding. And then when they slide, they get in all kinds of trouble. So that's one way that I'll do it. Another thing that I will do against trips is I will flood the trip side with coverage. So I'll show you that real quick. So, this is primarily for like the bubble screen. If they're running the bubble screen a lot, I'll come out in this cover three. And again, just show blitz your linebackers. That'll keep them in the gaps. But basically, it's just going to be a shaded down cover three like this. And relatively simple adjustments. All we're going to do on the right side is we're just going to play cover two. So it kind of looks like that. And we can either blitz the user and switch stick off, or we could put him in a hook and just send 4. I personally don't love to blitz trips if I'm not playing man, to be honest. So you do something like this, and you see you're going to get that 4-man if they don't, if they don't set up protection. Another way that I'll blitz trips is I will, again, this would be an example where you could actually realistically, use her on this left side here, which like this. So if you want to use her the trip side, I don't know what we're doing here. Yeah, reset my D line here, but basically, cover 4 drop will get us right. You see, you don't want to do that. So what happens is, that's why I don't like to audible a lot, because when you audible a lot, all kinds of stuff just messes up in this game. So if I can help it, I'm not going to audible a lot. That being said, so like if I'm in cover 4, that gives you the most amount of flexibility because then you can kind of actually set everything up. But essentially, this blitz is pretty consistent. And then what you can do on the left side here is you can actually go through and do a man coverage like this with a hard flat. This is not a bad defense if you have this third right here. You have to have this third. But if you have that third right there, this is not terrible. And then the cool part about this is we can have a third and then we could have like just a cloud. And we can send 4 like this. This is another kind of a justy shell that I like against trips because we have, kind of the man ups and things like that. But then we also have the middle third for the seam streak out of verticals. And then we have the cloud for the corner route out of verticals. So this will do a pretty good job here. And you see, like, if that guy gets open, you see that middle third is there. Like, he's right there. I got to click onto him, of course. But, like, he's there to play that. So, anyway, that's an option that I would do. And then another way to send 5 out of this would basically be like this. And then, you're just going to use her over here. And normally, yeah, you see that send 5 does pretty fine for you. And then the same thing with like cover 2. So if I'm in Tampa 2, blitz linebackers, right? I would vert hook. I would go flat. Come on. Flat vert hook. Sorry. And then I would do a flat like that. And then we would create a cover 3 cloud like this. So effectively what I would do is at the snap of the ball, I would switch stick onto this D-pad. You see that edge pressure coming in clean. And then I think the easiest way to send 4 in the game, the easiest way to send 4 out of this look right here is going to be, basically like this. Like, I think this is the easiest send 4 against trips you could do. It's fairly safe. And, the main thing you have to worry about is the running back table route, which is not going to kill you. And you see, the send 4 to me is really good. So I like the send 4 primarily against trips, to be honest. And, I do think it makes a lot of sense to use her over here. You're going to get a little better. It's just going to play a little bit better because you can kind of handle some of the things it can do. And then that allows you to, pretty basically just, flat, like just like this right here. This is straightforward, but send 4 like this, really good because a lot of times that guy will just come in clean, right? So I like to send 4 against trips, generally speaking, but there are times where I'll send 5. And, if I send 5, I really believe, one of the best ways to send 5 against trips is this right here. And then, the other thing about this is you kind of have to have this middle third, though, if you're going to do that. So I would have something like this. This is not a bad defense at all. Doing something like this against trips, really a lot of good comes from this shell right here. And the biggest thing here that I'm going to do is at the snap of the ball, I'm going to switch stick up. And then you see, we're able to play pretty decent against trips tight end. So another easy shell to do against trips is cover 4 quarters. This is a great mix-up shell. What I like to do with this one is essentially we're just going to I'm just going to send 3, and basically I'm just going to man my user up on somebody or just put him in a hook and just play match coverage. This is a great mix-up against trips this year. It's really effective. It'll take away a lot of the stuff they like to do. So every now and then I'll just send 3 out of cover 4 quarters. And then the other way that I like to send pressure here is the send to. So what I'll do from a send to perspective is typically I'll just send it off the quarterback's throwing hand. So like this, and then I'll spy, and then I'll have a hook here. And then what I would always do against trips is man up this middle trips receiver and this receiver right here. And then I would have like a flat on this guy and a middle third. This right here, this shell's pretty good against trips because you can basically switch stick onto this middle third, and then you can kind of like switch stick around out of that. So those are my preferred ways to defend trips tight end. So if you run 3-4 odd, one of the things they're going to try to do is they're going to basically try to go to 5 wide or go to a heavily spaced out formation, and this is my answer for that. So if they do that, what I typically like to do is run cover 3 sky. The reason being is because I want to send the pressure off of my user. Now, this is the beauty of show blitz. By show blitzing your linebackers, you are going to consistently get your linebackers in the perfect position, in my opinion. So I think it's just a great thing that we can do this. So anyway, as you see here, like I'm going to consistently send pressure. Now, the way that I like to send pressure out of this is really one of two methods. The first one is if I want to keep this nice symmetrical look like this, what I would do is I would do something like this where I would cross man my user, I would man this guy up on R1, and then we would basically, essentially send 4. And then what I would do is, I might move this guy a little bit more to the middle of the field. And then this is the key adjustment right here. Take this guy and put him into a seam flat. That is a very, very important adjustment. So by putting that guy into a seam flat, he's going to match that vertical if they run 4 verticals on the left side, if they run any kind of vertical. And then the main thing that your user needs to do is basically here, you got to kind of like run to the tight end. So essentially run down and then you kind of like get to the tight end and you see, we played pretty good defense there. Now, what I need to do, obviously, like I said, is guard the tight end. But, you see how good this is. And then let me show you the seam flat again. And then what I can also do with this backside guy is, get this middle third here. You could also, within this defense, I just think I'm a big believer in manning up this R1. The reason being is because this takes away the seam streak threat over here. And then now what you basically force them into is, throwing the ball to the tight end. However, if you have that seam flat there, what you can do defensively is you can, kind of get your blitz to come in, and then you can switch stick here, and you see that plays really, really well, right, against any kind of verticals or anything like that. So I love to switch stick off of that. The other thing that I'll do is something like this. So like if they have 3 to the right like this, what I would do is, you do something like this right here. Still put that seam flat over there. That's really, really important. But effectively, we'll just put this guy in yellow. You could also hover like right in here, and what you'll get is this guard will target you, and you see how that blitz comes in. So that's one method. I'm gonna give you a simpler one as well, because the more I think about it, you could also do this other thing. So the other thing that you can also do is you have actually within 3-4 odd itself, this play cover 3 match. What that does is now you don't even really need to do anything. The only thing that I would suggest manning this guy up on the tight end. And then really from there, like you don't really need to do anything else. And then if you're using this guy right here, basically run down for a second, get back into coverage, and then you let that crosswind kind of do what it does. But what that does is you don't have to man up the safety. You're just set up, because the seam flat adjustment is the key adjustment you need. Like these seam flats are so good. The other thing that you can do, now that I think about it, I forgot to mention this as well, is you can put this guy in an inside quarter. This is kind of a cool adjustment that I haven't talked about in a long time. What this is going to do is it's effectively going to make him match the tight end. So it's going to match that number 3 receiver no matter where he goes. And so what you'll see here is that quarter zone, he's matching basically the tight end. So those are 2 different methods that you can use to slow down 5 wide. Obviously, this is a little bit better. The other thing that you could do is you could flip like this, and you could run the defense like this, so you're usering on this side. What's nice about this is now, like, you're basically just perfectly aligned, and you can just get a nice send 4. I, generally speaking, like to send 4 against 5 wide. However, if I wanted to send 5, what I would do is just flip this cover 3 like so. If the 5 wide, like basically flip it to the trip side so that your blitzer is on the non-trip side. So it looks like this. We're just going to blitz this guy down, and then we could take the D in and put him on whatever if we wanted to, or we could just run the defense like this, and you're going to scream at him every single time. That's the beauty of this. So anyway, those are a couple different easy methods to defend 5 wide. I'll give you one other one, and that's just cover 4 quarters. But the big key with this is it's a coverage setup. You're going to cross man your user onto the tight end, and then you're going to actually user this this other linebacker here. So, you know, the reason this is really good is because the one person that can hurt you in match is going to be that tight end. But by cross manning him, it takes that completely away, and you're going to do a good job against the different things they're going to want to do out of 5 wide. I'll give you one other one just so that you have, you know, one other option, and that is cover 2. So with cover 2, what we're able to do here is we're simply going to put our user on a flat like this, and then we're going to take this right side and we're going to man up the 2 trips threats. So it looks like that. So the reason I like this is because I think the man coverage is really helpful. And then if they start running like drags and shallow crossers like that, we can actually carry that with the flat defender. And, you know, you see, you know, how good that is. Another really easy answer for 5 wide, by the way, go to pinch bug 0 and send 5 out of man coverage. So what I would do is it would look like this. Let's see if we can man this guy up. We cannot. Awesome. But basically, you know, I'd get real aggressive. I mean, you could even do it like this, but, you know, essentially you send 5. Sending 5 out of cover 0 guarantees your pressure, and the man coverage can hold up for long enough to make this actually worth it. So, again, another very, very simple thing you can do against 5 wide is just come out and pinch bug 0. Show blitz linebackers like this. You see, this is relatively fine. The only thing that I would do is I would man this guy up on X or on the tight end there, and then we're basically fine. Like, this is fine because you're going to get the quick pressure. It's really hard, especially with 5 wide or trips. If you route commit everybody to the inside, that's how they beat man in this. And so because everything's, you know, tight man, you get quick pressure, you're going to be in a pretty good spot. Generally speaking, 3-4 auto is not really a offense or a defense that the offense is going to run the ball on. That being said, I'm going to be going over kind of my base approach to run defense. If we're ever facing somebody that wants to run the ball every single play, I will use this approach. Very simple approach here. We're going to put our shell back on default, and we are either going to use this play saw blitz 1 or we're going to use this play cover 3 match. So what you'll see with saw blitz 1 is you're still just going to show blitz those linebackers just like this, and then we're just going to QB contain these outside linebackers. This is going to kind of help with setting the edge. And then what I like to do as far as a crash is I like to crash to the tight end side. I just think that's helpful for stretch to the strong side here. And you're basically just going to use the safety, and you're going to do a pretty darn good job of, you know, essentially just kind of helping cleaning everything up, right? This is just, you know, you're going to be in a pretty good spot in terms of your run defense with this, because you see how my user, of course I say that and I get kind of caught up, my user is not going to really get touched. And so what I would do is, like, you even come down here like this, right? And, you know, you see, I mean, it's hard to run the ball on this because you have such a heavy box count in this situation. And then if they run to the left side, that's going to really hurt them. As you see, it's really easy for my user to blow that up. And then the kind of other piece of this is the inside run. Not going to have a lot of success on the inside run. There's just too many people in the box here. So you see, I mean, it's, you know, I mean, it's hard to run the ball on this. So it's not that crazy complicated to stop the run. If they run like a power O or something like that, you know, kind of in the same boat here. We're still in a pretty good spot. You know, every now and then the computer will just go crazy in the run game, just because, again, trying to use 2 controllers. But in general, this is going to be a pretty darn good approach. You see right there. I mean, it's you're fairly safe with this run defense. And then if you wanted to be a little bit more passive, you could just kind of stay back a little bit with your user and then just kind of fill the run lanes like that and kind of clean up anything anything that could kill you. I will say the best run I think is like a power O or something like that. However, if we ever really get in trouble, we can just blitz these linebackers like this and kind of just blitz them through the gaps. And normally that will handle most runs that you're going to face. Now, the reason that I wanted you to also have that cover 3 match as an option is it's really good against under center sets. Cover 3 match in general is really good against under center sets because the seam flats, they're just going to do a really good job overall. So I'll do is cover 3 match. And you see it looks pretty similar, right? Pretty similar. The nice part about cover 3 match, you don't really need a middle third defender. And what I'll do is I'll basically just switch stick to one of the linebackers if they do happen to pass the ball. But you see this is a little bit safer of a run defense. You're not really having to blitz as much. The biggest thing here is you just want to make sure that if they run to the weak side, that's definitely your responsibility to get out there, kind of take care of that run. But again, this is just a little bit more passive of an option. And then if they do pass the ball like this, what normal things you're going to see is you would see something like this combination here on the outside or something. So bottom line, you're right here. You see, oh, it's a pass. Okay, I'm going to switch stick to the hook, and you can still get some good pressure off of this as well. So anyway, that's kind of why I like to use cover 3 match as kind of more of a safer run defense. And then that cover 1 blitz play is my more aggressive option. These are kind of the 2-ish shells I like to use down in the red zone. So first and foremost, we're going to go a little more conservative, and then we'll have a little bit more aggressive one. So the first one is cover 2, obviously. And basically what we're going to do is we're just going to show us the linebackers, shade our coverage underneath. We're going to blitz this guy on the left-hand side like this, and then we're going to put a hook on the safety. So essentially, like, it's fairly straightforward as far as what you want to do. And then what I would do is take this guy and put him on a purple. You could put your user on a middle third. The reason I like to do that is because sometimes the mid-read is a little too low. But with switch stick and the ability to send 5, I really like this coverage shell a lot. As far as like what is an actual combo you're going to get spacing switch. You could get a couple different variations of this, but generally speaking, this is kind of the main combo. I think you get something like that. And these hooks will do a decent job. And you're going to get instantaneous pressure, right? Very good pressure. And the hooks are going to do a pretty good job of, being able to defend. So because they can't send their running back, because the thing is, like, they want to send their running back out and they're not going to really be able to realistically. So, you can just pretty much bank on the fact that you have a really, really good coverage shell right here. This curl flat is really good because the curl flat, like let's say they tried to do, kind of like a tight end flat, like something like that. If they try to do that, you'll see here, curl flat goes right to where that tight end route would go, right? He's right there. Obviously, I'd ultimately make a play, but this is one of those coverage shells that I personally really like down here in the short yardage area of the field. Another thing that I'll do is I'll jump on this guy to get an extra guy in coverage. So what I would do here is I'm still going to middle third my linebacker. I'm still going to purple this guy, but now what I'm going to do is this will give me the ability to leave this half, put him in a third, put him in a quarter, whatever, to defend like a curl or something. Now I have a little bit better coverage in terms of capability of being able to defend that. And then we still have the 2 yellows. And if they aren't doing anything from a protection perspective, what you'll see here is, if I come down with my user just a little bit, a lot of times that'll create just enough pressure to be able to, kind of get enough pressure to be able to kind of force the pocket a little bit. So that's kind of my main, base shell that I want to do, that I want to run, and I've had a lot of success with against a lot of different offenses. As far as my kind of man-to-man shell that I like, it's going to be out of pinch buck. So what we're going to do is we're going to show blitz the linebackers just like this. And then the biggest thing here is you want to send the quick pressure. So what I would do is I would cross man. You're going to shade underneath. So essentially you're going to shade underneath, shaded down man coverage down here in the red zone. And then essentially what we're going to do on this back end here is I'm going to take the defensive end and man him up on the tight end. I'm going to take this guy and put him in a flat, and then I'm going to put my user in the middle of the field or cross-man him on the running back. It kind of depends a little bit on if they're, blocking a lot of people are not what you expect the running back to be on. A lot of people have really stopped putting the running back on running back streaks down here, and it kind of depends even on the side of the running back. If the running back's on your user side, then it makes a little more sense to keep your user in a yellow. But for running backs over here, then what I'll typically do, it might look something like this actually, where we're going to drop a hook like this. And essentially what I'm going to do is at the snap of the ball, I'm just going to D-pad switch to this guy right here. And, you know, you see we're able to play pretty decent defense. The biggest key to the whole thing here is shade inside underneath. Shade inside underneath, really going to help this. Because you're not going to get beat to the inside. You're going to get beat to the outside here, which is hard, really hard to make those throws down here in the red zone. The only thing that could really hurt you with this situation is really if the running back runs a running back streak. So you can go to that as well. So you don't have to, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to do the other way around. You could do something like this. Like let's say we get a zig. Well, because we have this flat here, right? All we have to user is we just got to go guard the running back. Everything else pretty much covered. Depending on how they're going to run this. So this is another little red zone coverage that I like. And then if I want to go all out coverage, what I would do is just 2 hard flats, shade inside underneath, man this guy up on the running back right here. And then, you know, I would basically just play, you know, super lockdown coverage side cross man the tight end like this, probably scissor with a hard flat, or I would do this right here. Just basically going, whoops, I'm not meaning to do that. But basically just going all out coverage, you know, so I'd kind of bluff the pressure, bluff the user rush, but then I'm going to go all out coverage. Great little tactic down here in the red area. So I do think one of the formations you have to plan for defensively down here in the red area is you have to plan for trip side in. It's kind of a unique offense, and it's something that requires like specific adjusting to defend. So if I'm gonna walk you through exactly how I like to play it, it's fairly actually straightforward what I like to do against trip. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come out in Tampa 2, but really important, I'm gonna flip it. And the reason I'm gonna flip it is because I want to basically, typically in the red zone, they're gonna run trips to the left. If they run trips to the right, then I would flip it, of course. But you know, basically what I want to do is I just want to set myself up to blitz off of this right side, because I don't really want to be kind of unique way to defend this, but basically we're going to use it as safety. Okay. And essentially what this is going to allow us to do is we're going to be able to man up this guy on the left side there. We're going to be able to man up this middle trips receiver right here. And then I'm going to play like a hard flat on this outside. You could also do a hook right here as well. That's another option. But effectively, you know, what I'm going to do is going to look something like this. And then I'm going to cross man this linebacker. This is really important on the in route. That's really, really important adjustment. Okay. From there, what I would do is, you know, you could hard flat this guy if you want to, or cloud flat him. I'm going to leave that up to you. And then basically my user, I'm going to put him on a hook. So look, the defense looks like this. You don't really need this defensive end either. So this defensive end on the left side, you don't need him to blitz. So what you could do is drop him in a hook as well to the left side to kind of help a little bit with the slant and stuff like that. So as far as this goes, like if you think about what they're going to be doing, the first thing we have to be able to stop is the bubble screen. Well, we have him manned up. That guy's going to get out there, normally going to do a really good job of being able to defend that bubble. Like you're in a relatively good position. Now I'm going to have a man coverage version and a zone coverage version, but the man coverage version, it really looks kind of like this right here. I mean, this is pretty much exactly what I would do. And if they run the bubble, you know, normally you're going to be in a pretty good spot. Throw it again here. And you see, right, if I make a tackle, right, I'm okay. Go. So that's one option. The zone coverage will do a little bit better job against the bubble screen, which I'll cover in just a minute. But you're also going to get good pressure from this because you're sending this. So you're going to be in a spot where you're going to get good pressure. Another thing you could do is you could do this one right here like this. If you wanted to do it like this, this also is the same basic idea, same basic principle. Going to do a little better job against the bubble screen than putting the outside guy on the flat, because now you have the linebacker, you have both linebackers putting their intention on the bubble screen. But that's like kind of the big piece of this. And then the next piece of this is really, as far as like the main route combo from trips that you're going to get 100% of the time. If someone knows, you know, if you're playing a trips player, they're going to run this combo. That's why I like to shade. Also, really important, route commit everybody to the inside. You have to do that. But by route committing everyone on the inside, if they run this combo right here, right, this is your standard trips red zone combo. Number one, you're going to pretty much take the slant. The only thing we really need to stop is the in route over the middle of the field. And so what you'll see here is that man up will pick it, right? He's right there, perfect position to defend that in route on the cut. So that's a hard throw for them to be able to live on, hard throw for them to be able to make consistently. And the other element of this, the other reason why I like this adjustment is because if they run like verticals where they try to throw the snap their streak, you're going to see that man up of the safety going to do a good job, right? So we're able to kind of handle some of the main things they want to do from trips tight end within this. Now, what I would also advise that I think is actually pretty good, if we're going to send 5 here, okay, which I do think, sending pressure is going to help against this, then the other big piece of this is your user on the tight end here. So effectively what's going to happen is if they're running like this combo right here, right, you're going to need to essentially pass off this tight end in a way. So there's really 2 ways to do it. Number one, you can switch stick. Number 2, you can play zone and just trust this hook curl on the backside. Both are kind of fine. The pressure is going to come in so fast that I don't think they're going to have time to hit that tight end. So I honestly think you're okay with it how we have it. But the other way that you could do it is you could cross man your user onto the tight end here. And then you could, kind of go about your adjustments here like so. And then what you would need to do is they're going to have to block the running back to pick up the blitz more than likely. So they block the running back. They're not going to have a flat threat. So that's where what you would do is you'd switch stick onto this flat when the tight end cuts. So it's like this, right? You switch stick here, and then you come over here and help with whatever. Okay. So those are really, that's the more man-based version of this. The zone-based version of this is we're going to flat this guy on the outside, hard flat him. I'm going to leave this cloud right here. I'm going to hook this this safety, and then I'm going to vert hook. So basically these hooks, this hook right here is really important. So what I would do if I were you is I'd shade these hook curls outside, because if you don't do that, like, it's going to be too easy to hit. I'd leave that cloud there, and then I would actually take the user, or this guy right here, man him up on the bubble so it looked like this. And then on the right-hand side, pretty much all you need to do on the right-hand side here is I'd hook this guy, and I'd cross-man the tight end. So it kind of looks like this. So that's pretty decent as well. The other thing is if we want to blitz from this, then we would just leave this hook like this. We'd have the hard flats. The main reason for the man up there is that man up's going to do a really good job of, kind of, again, just deterring the bubble screen. You see, decent bubble deep. And then the other thing that we haven't really talked about yet is and the reason why I like to blitz 5 or send 5 this way is because of the quarterback run play, quarterback power play, any of this stuff. This will do a really good job against that. As you see, you're able to be in a pretty good position to stop the quarterback run. I'm going to give you one other defense that I like for trips tight end down here that I do think is just worth mentioning. This is specific for China white post. So it's pinch bug go, and we're going to basically run it flipped, and we're going to use her the safety. So we're still sitting 5 off the right. Actually need to flip it and come out in it properly. We're not going to be in a cover 2 shell. We're going to be in a cover 0. So what I would do is I'd flip it, right, so that the blitz side is on trip side like that. I would be right here, and I'd move this guy basically to here, and then I would effectively kind of have the tight end to myself, right? But what I would really importantly do is I would, now I would press this up, right? So you got that press coverage, and then you have effectively kind of a little bit more aggressive, but it's just shade inside underneath, and it's just this right here. Now what I would do is at the snap of the ball, I would switch stick to this linebacker on the running back, right?
because you have this running back he's in a really good position, and you just have that right there, and then you see that hard flat takes him, and I'm able to get to the rest of the play. So that is, and you're still going to be in a pretty good spot against quarterback run because of the outside linebacker here, right? It's a little bit more open, but because of that outside linebacker, you're going to be in a little bit better spot. Let me show that one more time. Maybe use her a little bit better, but basically here, I'm just trying to kind of contain it. You see, this is why people don't run cover 0 against trips. But normally this will actually play this. Maybe you'd be a little bit more out, but effectively here, normally the blitzing linebacker will actually blow it up. So you kind of have to scrape with your user to stop it. But this is definitely, the main offense you're going to see. Now, another way you could defend this is you could be on this guy right here. And if you're on this guy and they run the QB power, now you're in trouble. So that's why I like to use the safety. Ultimately, I think the best thing is to simply, play, if you want to move this guy out a little bit, that'll help a little bit. Sets the edge perfectly there, Now we're trying to scrape over. It's hard to show with 2 controllers, but, in general, the zone stuff is a little better against the quarterback run, but you're a little bit more susceptible to the bubble. That cross flat, that little man up from that linebacker is going to do a good job. Especially what I would do is have that plus a hard flat. And now what you'll see is there's really nowhere to throw this little cross route. And you're going to play decent against that.